Our business runs about 12 to 13% of it is direct to consumer online. Obviously, in this environment, that's growing significantly faster. And our online business is up, depending on region, anywhere from 30 to 70%. So we're seeing good reaction. We're engaging with our consumers. But obviously, brick and mortar is still representing 85% of our business, like most brands, most apparel companies. It's a major headwind for us right now.
There's a big article today in the Washington Post about how some of these workers are questioning the judgment of the companies, which are putting them to work, going into stores to get inventory and shipping items out to consumers just so that they can get a deal online and retail can survive, when it's actually not so safe potentially for them to be working in this environment. How do you feel about that, and how do you manage those kind of risky decisions right now?
Well, look, that is a challenge. Right now, it's a balancing act. Our stores in the United States are all closed as of today. If you move to Europe, probably 90% of our stores are closed today. We're trying to make the judgments, working with the local states, the individual countries, to really understand how they're moving forward. And then we've put in guidelines, protocols to make it as safe as possible through protective gear, masks, deep cleansing of the facilities and the stores, both our stores and our warehouses, because we do recognize that our associates are taking some level of risk as they engage in this transaction. We're leaving it totally up to our associates if they'd like to come back and make those judgments, but clearly it's a balancing act as we go forward.
Manny, what's your expectation for how eager consumers will be to come back and spend when they're allowed to? Do you think it'll take 1 year to get back to 2019 levels of sales, or much longer?
No, I think, look, our experience has been, and my best experience right now is Asia, particularly the China business and our Korea business, which those countries have reopened. And we're seeing store sales down somewhere in the neighborhood of, let's say, 30%, but our online business up, 60 to 70%. So that balance gives us, we're running today probably down, 20 to 25% overall, but week over week, we continue to see growth over the prior week. So it's actually giving us, it's doing much better than we anticipated coming back. My expectation in the United States is I think it's going to take somewhere between 9 to 12 months before we see retail trends at brick and mortar back more on a level keel.
I mean, March retail sales, we're looking at it. Clothing and accessory down 50%, Manny. It's not like clothing was such a hot category even before we went into this pandemic and this crisis. I mean, what's it going to take to get consumers excited again about buying this category?
So, the March results were clearly impacted by the virus. I think if you looked at the February results, they would have been down, but down very low single-digit kind of declines overall. Look, I think that's one of the challenges that the industry is dealing with, is the excitement around it. There's clearly winners and losers. PVH had a very, very strong fourth quarter between our Calvin Klein and Tommy Hilfiger businesses, but it clearly is a share game right now. And this virus is only going to put more pressure on brick and mortar retail. If we were sitting here talking 3 or 4 months ago, I would have been talking to you about there's too many stores in the United States to begin with. And over the next 5 to 6 years, I would imagine that there's 20 to 30% of our stores that need to close down in the United States. I still feel that way, but I think now we're talking about something that's closer to 2 years that we're going to see a significant closure of stores as we go forward. I think the winners will be the companies and the brands that have invested online, invested in communicating with their consumer, and have positioned themselves well as they've gone forward. But clearly, we're going into a rocky time as we go forward.
You've got quite a good spread of price points within your brands, Manny. I mean, do you expect the balance between expensive and more affordable brands to alter for 2020 and 2021?
I haven't seen that. Look, at the top end of the spectrum, consistently, when we talk about luxury and we talk about real premium, that's been probably the strongest sector of the apparel range that we've seen overall. And our top brands, Calvin and Tommy, have performed there. But I will say my experience with recessions has been that consumers do tend to trade down, and that national brands that have a strong appeal to consumers tend to do well in those kind of categories. So I think it's really going to depend on a brand by brand basis. And I think if you're positioned well, you'll do well. But I think you're clearly coming back into this May, June timeframe. There's going to be plenty of apparel. It's going to be on sale, and it's going to be very much a high discount promotional environment, and it's going to be a difficult environment for most retailers as they go back. And I think what we're seeing as we go into the fall season is everyone is buying very conservatively, concerned about consumer demand, but also concerned about a second wave or a second pandemic. God forbid there's a shutdown in the fourth quarter. You can only imagine what that would mean as we were in the holiday selling season if business were to shut down similar to what we saw in March and April. So clearly that's something that we're all trying to balance against as we go forward.
Manny, finally, we know you did test positive for COVID-19. You look and sound well. Give us an update on how you're doing and whether that happening to you has impacted the way you've run the business through this crisis.
Well, first, I feel great. My family feels great. I've definitely had it. My wife, we believe, has had it. She hasn't been tested. We were one of the lucky ones. We had very, very mild symptoms. And hopefully we have the antibodies. It has, it gives you a perspective. I mean, when I found out about it, you could imagine I was completely shocked. And it puts life in perspective. It does scare you a bit. And hopefully it'll make me a better leader for our associates here at PVH, that I have an understanding of what people are going to be going through and the fears and the risks that they're taking. Hopefully that'll make me a better leader as we go forward.